To the Myrna Method live stream. I'm registered Dietitian Myrna Haag. My goal is to bring you impactful nutrition information that can significantly change your life. In this video, we're going to talk about net carbs. I don't know how many times I have patients come to me and want to know the lowdown on net carbs, how relevant it is to them, what does it mean from a diet perspective. And quite honestly, a lot of people are counting these net carbs, really kind of screwing them up with their calories and what they should be eating. So in this video, we're going to bring you the science on net carbs. Sammy, if you're ready, let's take a deep dive. Are they healthier for us? Should we be doing them? So let's look and see if it's just another fad diet or if there's any real relevance. The main point is we're going to figure out what are net carbs, the nutrition regarding net carbs, and then, of course, the science behind them. So we talk about net carbs. This is a fancy terminology that the food companies have designed. It's taking total carbohydrates, which are like breads, beans, pasta, subtracting out the fiber, which is the part of the plant that is not digestible, so it doesn't go to the bloodstream, it stays in the intestinal tract, and then also subtracting out the sugar alcohols, which are the artificial sugars, artificial sweeteners, and this then gets us down to net carbs. So the idea is these net carbs are not fully absorbed, they're metabolized a little differently, so now food companies are putting on their food labels that it has net carbs, and this is supposed to bring us a better benefit for our diet, especially with the keto diet. But why are net carbs popular? Why is everybody attaching to this big hype on net carbs? Well, because of the misconception that carbs make you fat. And I know if you've listened to a lot of my podcasts, I talk about how important the macronutrients are in maintaining your body for several reasons. Carbs have their purpose. Net carbs are about reducing the carb content in food. This is what people believe, that if they are doing a net carb, that means that the carbs that they're eating are maybe less impactful, maybe there's less of them in there, and also it's keto friendly, and it allows you to stay on your keto diet. So let's look at the math. Let's actually look at an example of a keto diet, and let's look at how they get to the math from a food label. So in this cookie, they're talking about, it's a nutrition fact for a cookie, they're showing that it has 19 carbohydrates, but when we take out the fiber at 11 grams and the sugar alcohol at 4, so it has some artificial sweetener, we're at 15 grams, and we subtract that from the total carbs at 19, and we get these net carbs. It's 4 net carbs for this cookie. And on the keto diet, typically what I've seen on the internet, that they're recommending a carbohydrate intake of net carbs between 20 and 30 grams a day. So how relevant is it? Well, let's first talk about how many carbs you do need for the day, because I think that's pretty relevant in understanding how irrelevant net carbs are. When we look at carbs for the day, just like all the macronutrients, it is wise, and I mean by wise, it helps you maintain your leanest weight and get to your optimum health if you can try to keep your carbs between 45 and 55% of your ideal body weight calories. So if your ideal body weight is 120 pounds and you multiply that by 1.3, you're going to get at that 45%. Then if you exercise for an hour, you can easily add 20 to 50 grams of carbs, depending on your intensity, to that number. Now, the reason why you want this number is it gives you an idea how many grams of carbs your body wants to maintain your healthiest, your most energetic, and believe it or not, your leanest self. That's how many carbs you need. So let's talk about how net carbs play a role in this. So we're going to go back to some advertisements from food companies and what you're likely to see and how this advertisement is relevant to you. So it shows that this bread, Nature's Own, has 1 net carb. and you're looking at the calories and it's 35 calories, 1 net carb, this sounds like a great deal for you, something that can really help you stay on your keto diet, especially if you need 20 grams of net carbs. So when we're looking at the lie versus the truth, let's talk about that. Because I think you have to get one basic nutrition truth to really understand the lie we're getting in regards to these net carbs and what these food companies are trying to do in getting us to buy their products. The truth is, for every gram of a protein, it's 4 calories. For every gram of a carb, it's 4 calories. For every gram of fat, it's 9 calories. And every gram of fiber is 0 calories. So this helps us understand the calories in protein, carbs, fat, and fiber. Now, there's 2 things to look at. One truth is the calories, and they're not being very truthful about that. And then the real purpose of the net carb relates more to biochemistry. And I'm going to get to that after we finish the calorie situation. So what they're showing is that this particular food item, if we take the real science and we take protein, 4 calories per gram, and this food label has 6 grams of protein. So we take 6 grams of protein, we multiply it by the 4 calories per gram, and there's 24 calories of protein. Carbs, it has 10 grams of carbs, and we multiply that by 4 calories per gram, and it's 40 calories of carbs. We do the same thing for fat at 9 calories per gram, and we come up with 9 calories. Bottom line, the nutrition truth with this food label is that when we take the grams that are calories per gram in these macros, it's actually 73 calories. And the food label says 35 calories, but this is actually 73 calories. That's actually the truth. So when we look at the nutrition truth, when it comes to carbs, let's just forget about net carbs for a minute and how this fiber subtracting from the carbs has relevance. The absolute nutrition truth is that for 10 grams of carbs, it's going to be 40 calories all day long. And calories do play a significant in your nutrition role with your diet, just as how those calories get to the bloodstream play a significant difference. And that's where we're going to see the net carbs do make a difference. But let's first look at the fallacy behind what the food companies are doing with these net carbs. This is an example of the actual 73 calories, and if you look at the nutrition lie, the fiber does not remove any of the carbohydrate calories. So they're basing the calories based on a lie. They're basically saying fiber, we know the nutrition truth, has 0 calories per gram. So if you take 9 grams of fiber and you multiply it by 0, you're going to get 0. So how can you take 0 from 10 grams of carbs and get 1? Well, the math just doesn't make sense. But in the food labels, what they're showing is that they're actually doing that. They're taking the fiber, which has 0 calories at 9 grams, and they're subtracting it from the 10 grams of carbohydrates, and they're telling you that this now has 4 calories of carbs. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. It's not even related. The net carbs is not related to the calories, but they're showing it and reflecting it in the food label. And actually, a lot of food labels are now starting to do this. So they're starting to advertise these net carbs is actually reducing. Because when you look at this and you're going, wow, net carbs, it looks like the carbs are going away because you're looking at the calories at 35 calories. You can certainly afford this when it's sitting at 4 net carbs. But the carbs grams actually scientifically don't go anywhere. That's not actually a truth. And here's some nutrition truths you need to know moving forward, because we're going to now show you the biochemistry. And here's what we want you to know. Fiber stays in the digestive tract. It has 0 calories. Protein, fiber, protein, fat, and carbs, they have calories. All those macros have calories, and they actually go in the bloodstream. So net carbs are really about reducing something that has no calories from something that has calories. So how can this and why should this affect that nutrition label? So let's go into the science. When we look at the carbs from the nature's own bread, or we just look at the macronutrients in general, all of those macronutrients go into the digestive tract so your body can digest it for one purpose: to get most of those macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat, into the bloodstream. So the goal is the body digests fat, protein, breaks it down to amino acids, breaks the fat down to fatty acids, the carbs into glucose. There are still calories in these nutrients. There's still calories in protein, glucose, and fat. What has been removed is the fiber. The fiber's back in the intestinal tract. But the calories are now going to go into the mitochondria, and the most mitochondria we have is in the muscle for the purpose of getting energy in regards to fat and glucose. So the mitochondria converts the glucose into energy, which is measured in calories. So that's the relevance of calories. It's a measurement of energy. And it moved from the gut to the bloodstream to the cells that need it. And with protein, it's breaking down to amino acids, and the sole purpose of the protein is to actually build and repair all your cells, specifically muscle cells, to make more muscle cells, which actually means to make more muscle. So let's look at the biochemistry and understand what then is the importance of a net carb. So when you do a carbohydrate, it breaks down into glucose, and that glucose, if it's all by itself and nothing is slowing it down, let's say you just take a big glass of orange juice, that glucose goes into the bloodstream super fast. So unless glucose has fiber to slow it down, and actually even protein and fat can do the same, it's going to go in the bloodstream in literally 5 minutes. And what happens with that is you have a big load of insulin going in the bloodstream at the same time. And the purpose of insulin is to attach to the receptor sites that sits on the cells. And in this case, we're showing the muscle cell. Insulin attaches to the receptor site on muscle cell, and that allows the transporter to come to the surface, and that is when the glucose is then able to get into the muscle cell. It gets into the mitochondria. It burns also with the fatty acids, and the energy that is produced from that is measured in calories. That's simple. So why is it important that we want fiber? And actually fiber and protein is what I advocate, both together, is because when glucose is with fiber, it does not go into the bloodstream fast. It is not a fast entry. And if glucose does go into the bloodstream fast, what basically happens is that you will actually get the glucose to go into the muscles like it's supposed to. And for the first hour, you're going to have all this energy. You're going to feel great. But you're going to have a lot of leftover insulin, and then it's going to make you super sleepy. So in 1 hour, you're jumping off the walls, and then the next 2 hours, you need a nap. And that's just the biochemistry. When sugar goes into the blood super fast, insulin goes into the blood super fast. You got a lot of insulin, you got a lot of blood sugar, and the sugar gets into the muscle. You get super energetic. Muscles are bouncing all over the place. You feel great. But now you're left with a lot of excess insulin, which can make you tired. If glucose, that same amount of glucose, was brought into the intestinal tract with a lot of fiber, it would not be a fast entry. What would happen is the glucose would trickle into the bloodstream, and the insulin would also trickle. So you wouldn't get a mass dosage of insulin, you're not going to get a mass dosage of sugar, and you're going to have a steadier stream. So net carbs, really, it's just saying eat carbs with glucose. And ideally, yes, if you could eat this, close to the same amount of carbs as fiber, it's going to definitely slow down the sugar. It's going to give you more stable blood sugar. But now let's look at it from a diabetic standpoint, or somebody that has insulin resistance, which is type 2 diabetes a decade before. So what is type 2 diabetes? What is insulin resistant? The receptor sites that insulin attaches to becomes all clogged up. And when that insulin tries to tell the muscle cell to bring the transporter to the surface, it doesn't take place. And why is that? Because in your diet, perhaps you're not eating balanced, you're eating a lot of excess fatty acids, or maybe you just have too much body fat. These fatty acids can accumulate in places they shouldn't, specifically muscle cells, and they can be responsible for creating insulin resistance, which is maybe, 20 or 30% of them. You're insulin resistant. Just wait a decade. You get to 50 or 60% of these receptor sites all clogged up, and then you'll have the type 2 diabetes. So what is the importance of a net carb situation here? Or really just bringing fiber and protein into your diet when you eat a carb? Well, if this is all gunked up and the transporter never comes to the surface, the sugar begins to build outside the muscle cell. And what happens is the insulin is also being dropped into the bloodstream, because the more that sugar can't get inside the muscle cell, the more the body drops insulin into the blood. So now you have a situation, you didn't even get the hyper bit, right? So you didn't get super energetic because the muscle actually never got the sugar, but you are going to get the fatigue. But what you're going to get with the fatigue is you're going to also get excess body fat, because when the sugar can't get in the muscle to burn, it's then going to go into fat cells, primarily in the belly area. So when you have insulin resistance, you have type 2 diabetes, and you are noticing you're getting more of a muffin top, this is exactly the characteristic that happens when you have excess glucose in the blood. It goes into the fat cell, because fat cells are always open for business, specifically in the belly area. And as the sugar dumps into these fat cells and you get fatter, you still have the excess insulin in the blood, which can make you more tired. So bottom line, you have excess insulin and excess sugar in the blood, which increases the belly fat and can also make you more tired. So when you have a situation where you have fiber combined with the carbs, you're not going to get a fast entry once again. And when you're a diabetic, it slows down the sugar in the blood, which means it doesn't bring as much insulin. And when you're diabetic, it doesn't mean that we have all of our insulin receptor sites clogged. When you're insulin resistant, maybe it's 30 or 40%. When you're diabetic, it's a little higher. But when you have a few units of glucose being released steadily through the bloodstream and a few units of insulin, you're going to easily find some of these muscle cells that are going to be fine and open for business. But when you dump it in too fast, too quick, then you're going to get a situation where you're not going to be able, especially if you have 40 or 50 of these, disabled because you're a type 2 diabetic, you're going to have a lot of sugar in the blood because you can't dump it in the muscle quick enough. So net carbs is really the food company's way, I think, of tricking you a little bit. Because if you're talking to a dietitian, I'm basically going to tell you calories are calories, and the calories mean nothing with these net carbs, because calories are going to be experienced once they're actually burned. That's how we measure what you're burning. So ideally, we want to bring into our carbohydrates, if we're trying to eat a balanced diet, we want to bring in that protein and that fiber. Obviously, I'm not trying to bring a lot of fat because I want to make sure that we get the right amount of fat in your body, not too much dietary fat, because that could be problematic in regards to clogging up these receptor sites. So now that we know the science, let's go back and look at some more examples of food companies. So I'm looking at this label, and it says it has 70 calories, so let's do the nutrition truth. It says it has 6 grams of protein, so we take 6 grams of protein, we multiply it by 4 calories per gram, 24 calories of protein. It has 19 grams of carbs, we multiply that by 4 calories, 76 calories of carbs. We do the same thing for fat at 9 calories per gram, we get 27 calories of fat. This truth of this particular tortilla is 127 calories. But what the food company's doing is they're tying in these net carbs, which is irrelevant to the calories, but they're using them to show you, wow, if we take out the fiber from the calories, like some mysterious way, it's going to change the calories and the carbs and change your label, which it does not. The only thing it does is it slows down the carbs, which can be an advantage, but it's really deceptive in what they're doing with our food labels. Because they're showing this food label, when I do the science on it, it's actually showing 63 calories. This label is trying to show the net carbs are affecting the calories. And they're absolutely wrong. This is not true. We talk about zero carb bread. My God, who wouldn't want zero carb bread? You're on a keto diet, this is going to be the bread I'm going to do, because they're showing it has 7 grams of fiber and 7 grams of carbs, and they're showing it at 0 net carbs. 0 net carbs. But here's the fallacy. They're using that and showing when you do 0 net carbs, remember there's 0 calories in fiber, so it shouldn't even make any mathematical sense, and it doesn't, but they're showing when they do their math that they then are justified to show you that one slice of this is 45 calories, when the actual truth is it's 74 calories. So a lot of these net carbs, food companies are using to try to get you more invested in buying their products, because they know a lot of people are trying to eliminate carbs from their diet because maybe they are insulin resistant. It's not about eliminating the carbs. Your muscles want carbs. It provides the energy. It's knowing how to combine the carbs to slow them down. Here's another product showing, again, actual calories are 81, but when they do the net carbs, it's coming in at 60. When we look more at food companies, Royo bread, this bread is showing that actually it should be 64 calories, but they're showing when you take the total carbs, you subtract the fiber, you're only at net carbs of 2. And they're actually using the net carbs of 2 to show you calories at 30, which provides no nutrition truth at all. So in summary, net carbs are only a reflection of the amount of fiber in the carbs. And the benefit of net carb would be just to slow down the carbohydrates in the bloodstream. Because if carbohydrates go in the bloodstream too fast, which most carbs break down super fast, then this is going to lead to excess insulin. And if you don't have insulin resistance and you don't have diabetes, it just means you're going to be flying off the walls for an hour and then needing a nap 2 hours later. And if you do have diabetes, it probably means you're going to need a nap 2 hours later, and you're not going to be getting the energy hit from it because you're probably going to be gaining more fat because you're going to be better at storing the carbs as fat than you are burning as energy. But the way to resolve this is not to eliminate the carbs from your diet, but actually learn how to combine them with the right amount of fiber and protein. And hopefully what you're getting out of this video is these net carbs are more about the food company deceitfully tricking you into believing their food is less carbs and therefore less calories. So I just want to remind you, I have a book on Amazon if you really want to know the science behind how it really works in diet. And also you can join my membership where I run you through the macronutrients with a web-based app, recipes, everything you need to truly balance your diet to be your leanest and healthiest. So if we have any chats, Sammy, any questions? Yep, don't forget to subscribe. And remember, nutrition is all about science. And if this was helpful for you in clarifying net carbs, don't forget to share it with someone else.